Spirit Bus 33, welcome, episode number 8. I'm just so grateful for you, for anyone that's listening right now. Thank you so much. Received some great feedback. I think the audio is sounding better. But yeah, I want to take a moment and saying that this is really therapeutic for me. And to do this podcast, it's a great hobby. I'm not even sure, I've been really open that I'm not sure exactly how this is unfolding. Excited that I don't have my face. I found out how to stop that today. I think that that's better for my concentration instead of realizing that I'm being recorded through the video. But yeah, I'm just really honored for and I've had a couple people tell me that this is helpful, and I just that really means the world to me. And I love having these conversations that go below the surface level. Is that we're all having this human experience, and this is wild. This is, an intense experience in all sorts of different ways. We get to experience all of the emotions, like there's such a spectrum of emotions. I'm not telling you anything you don't know. You're experiencing them too, and so I'm excited, just to be here. And uh, so again, I'm putting out a lot of gratitude. So the topic for today was gifted to me, by an amazing person. I'm going to just, say good, Oregon energy, shout out, thank you. This idea of transitions. And, May is a really good month to talk about, transitioning into a new version of ourselves or a transition in our life, because May is, the month of renewal. It's the month of growth, new beginnings. I like that. I don't know about you all, but I want some new beginnings in a lot of areas of my life. And so to think that, May has that energy, I like that, because then I can really be intentional about what new beginnings that I'm, going to be engaging in this month. And I can take all the wisdom, and so can you, from everything that we've learned over the whole entire winter. And we can really apply it, to this beautiful month of May. I like the word dynamic. It's something constantly changing or developing. And we're really dynamic. We are I like the way this sounds, is we are dynamic spiritual beings having this human experience. Because we're constantly changing. Sometimes it's really obvious. Sometimes the changes are abrupt. I mean, we can have, extreme changes in all sorts of life domains where it's really obvious that the change occurs. But then sometimes it can be so slight. It's just the little decisions that we're making, every day, that are bringing us to this new version of ourselves. And, so that word dynamic, I like the way it feels, too, just the energy of that word. So, yes, we are in this transitional period of time right now. And so, would love if everyone would just kind of take a moment. I don't know if you have a notebook that you bring with you, or if you just make mental notes, or, how you do that inner work. But maybe just take a moment, pause this, and think about, what new beginnings are here for you that you're aware of. What transitional state are you in? Are you maybe finishing, or probably already finished, A semester in college. Have you graduated? Are you embarking on a new adventure? Just taking a moment and writing down, some of the new beginnings that you're aware of right now. And likely, as you've written some of those down, they're going to be some of the most obvious ones. And then, if you need to pause it again, but then, maybe just give yourself a little bit more time and think about maybe some of the, not so obvious ones. What other type of, new beginning or renewal or growth are you seeing in yourself? What comes up when you sit in that space, just sitting with your own consciousness, that union with yourself, and do a little check-in, of what changes are happening now, or what changes would you like to happen? Maybe there has not been, some intention setting. And so maybe there's been some whispers to you. These whispers, I like to, I'll describe it as our spirit guides, our internal guidance system, our intuition, whichever language best suits your belief system. But there are these whispers that keep coming to us and they keep saying, pay attention to this. You really need to do this. This is something for you. And it can come in a whole variety of different things. Last episode, as you all heard me with that concussion, oh boy, there was a whisper of, hey, that plant's gonna fall, that's getting a little loose up there in the ceiling, so it could be something small like that, like, a to-do, something on your to-do list that's important. It can be something of, a whisper of it's time to really take better care of yourself. Maybe you're really feeling like you need to eat healthier or exercise or, so many different things. But if you just take a moment and you just kind of tap into what changes you're seeing, what changes you would like to see, what are your intentions for this amazing month of May, bringing about a new version of you that's going to slide right into that good summer energy. Where typically we're getting so much more sunlight for those of us that live in areas where, where the sun is a little bit more scarce in the winter. Our vitamin D levels are going up. We're starting to feel better, so setting some really good intentional, mindset of what beginning do you want to happen? What do you want to see? What do you need to see? It reminds me, oh, where is it? Let's see. It reminds me of this, Jerry Garcia quotes. We are the ones that we have been waiting for. And I remember that's such a powerful quote because we are the ones we're waiting for in so many different ways. You know, for ourselves, we're the ones that we're waiting for here. Like all the changes that we need to make for ourselves. There are some things out of our circle of control for sure. But the majority of what we need to do for ourselves, we're the ones that can do it. And if we're thinking that's on a kind of a micro level, if we're thinking on a macro level, like we are the ones that are going to be making the changes. And, so really tapping into, what do you want this spring energy to look like? What do you want to have moving forward? I actually really like, personally, I'm not one that really sets New Year's resolutions, but I really like to set, I don't, not using the words resolutions, but I think May is a really great month to set those similar types of things because it almost feels like, I mean, there's I think, some controversy somewhere, rabbit hole that I'm not going to go down, but it appears, that this time of the year, spring really feels like the new year. It's kind of odd in January, and kind of like just the winter, to have the new year starting then. This feels to me, like a new year, some renewal and rebirth happening right now. So, another part of this transitional state that I think is important to mention is that many people have a hard time with transitions. So, that can kind of leave people with some uncomfortability during some transitional states. And so I think that it's important when we're setting these intentions, where changes are coming, but then also to just be mindful of how do you show up during change. What happens to you, for an example, I'll just use the college as a college semesters. What happens to you if you're in college and the semester ends and you have a transition into your summer self? Or, a big life event is happening and you're transitioning into maybe a new, I don't know, physical environment that you're going to be living in, or a relationship ending, new one beginning, a change in employment, any of those transitional times. Often some people will start to feel their nervous system activate, or will feel some mood fluctuation, increased stress. And sometimes when there are transitions happening, it can remind us of adverse childhood experiences or other shaping experiences that involved change that maybe were not pleasant when we were younger. So then now when change starts happening, we start feeling this underlying maybe emotion of fear. And this is a beautiful way of getting to know yourself, is if you are experiencing fear with transitions or any whatever the emotion is you can ask yourself, when I feel this emotion, what happens? So you can get to know, do you go into freeze mode? Do you, kind of just like shut down? Do you have some increased irritability? Do you take care of yourself better? Do you take, does that decline? Like, what happens to you when you're going through a transitional state? And of course, I think these are going to be on a spectrum because, um, every transition is a little bit different. And so I think that, we kind of have to get to know ourselves in the state that we are now. So, what changes are happening now? And what are you observing in yourself? It's a reminder, we're staying in that observer mind as often as possible through this healing journey so that we can really understand ourselves. And so, what are you experiencing? And then when you identify the emotion of what you're experiencing, then, okay, how do I show up when that emotion is present? What choices am I making? Am I self-medicating? Am I, what is happening here? I think sometimes a good way of really understanding it, is, starting off with, some mindfulness, sit still, get yourself in a really, quiet, calm, centered state of mind, minimal distractions, and then start, kind of asking yourself some of these questions. A lot of people, I think it's really helpful for journaling, writing it out, or speaking it out. I know that there's, some people that really prefer journaling in an audio sort of way. Working with a therapist, working with a coach, a mentor, a friend, perhaps if they have capacity, some good conversation, is, what changes are happening, what are you experiencing, and what do you need to learn from it. And tapping into, remember, that belief system too is, you know how does your belief system assist you with the changes that you want to make or that are coming about at this time. And so if you're not engaging in your spiritual practices or your belief system practices, it may be, time to start that up again to get a little bit more clarity. I think even sometimes just writing stuff out, if you're having a hard time with decision making, like a good pros cons list or something to help you with that decision. Of course, too, I think getting a sleep, hydration, all those good things. We have this avatar to take care of. It's holding our consciousness for us to have this experience. And so it's harder, I think, to make decisions or to see clearer when we are not taking care of our avatar. And I know this firsthand. It gets a lot harder for me to regulate my own emotions and, to go through transitional periods when I have maybe slid out of my practices or, eating not a balanced diet, not eating in moderation. So I think that that's a good place to kind of check in with yourself too. Is this spring version of you that's going to be setting these intentions, that's going to be doing some amazing things this summer. What does your avatar need, for that to be optimal? There's this Deepak Chopra quotes of that all great changes are preceded by chaos. And I remember that quote from a while ago because I really resonated with it. And then I had a period of time where I didn't because I didn't like the word chaos. And for me, chaos would kind of elicit this really uncomfortable sensation in my body because I had this idea of chaos meaning something negative, from my own shaping experiences. And, when things were chaotic, my internal state felt chaotic. And then, I thought about it, a lot more, I think, over the last year or so. I can't remember when the first time that when I read that was, but is that not all chaos, is bad. I think there's a lot of people that have a belief system um, that incorporates, chaos into it. But, I think there's some chaos in spring energy, so when you go outside right now and you kind of look around, there's the chaos of the bug community. I mean, they're just everywhere trying to kind of get their spring on. And you can see them just kind of emerging, more kind of spiders coming into your homes, different insects coming in. The birds are definitely, they're really emerging, and there can sometimes be, this chaotic, kind of energy with them. So I don't necessarily feel that, chaos always has to be negative. So then when I reread that quote with that energy, all great changes are preceded by chaos, that makes more sense to me because that's true, is that we have to shake things up in order to change. Is that if we do the same thing day after day, I mean, we're still going to change because, we're still, our bodies are changing with every decision that we make. There still will be, curveballs out of your circle of control changes, but when there is actual intentional change, there's chaos. I mean, there is some chaos. I'll use, starting to work out. There's a little bit of chaos of like changing your schedule, getting yourself, back on track of taking better care of yourself. There's that chaotic energy. Spring definitely, I feel like you can kind of feel summer's brewing, kind of that chaos of the beginning of that. Sometimes I feel like the best changes, if you look, maybe kind of also take a little peek back, is sometimes when things were really chaotic in my life, some of the best changes came out of it. And maybe at the time, it didn't feel that way. Maybe at the time, the chaos of that transitional period, had a lot of heavy emotions with it, felt scary. There was turbulence. Um, but on the other end of it, after that ended, came a new chapter that was much needed. So I think that we can, kind of sometimes lean into this chaos, and we can have the belief system that all great changes are coming from any type of chaos. And I like to hold that too, if we're thinking about that at a macro level, because I know that there's a lot of people having a really hard time. You know, we've all gone through this collective experience over the last few years. And it doesn't matter what your belief system is on that, what side you fall on, if any, is that these are unprecedented times. I mean, these are, there is some chaos. You can feel it, and some unknown. And so, holding that space of all great changes, are preceded by chaos, and knowing, that good is coming, and we're going to get up. We're going to take good care of ourselves, the best to our ability of the version of ourselves that we have that day. We're going to take good care of the people around us. We're going to be intentional about the changes that we want to see, the new beginnings, the growth we want to see. And when these unexpected transitions happen, we're going to get curious, and we're going to learn more about ourselves and stay in that observer state of mind as often as possible. And I mean, really, is that, all we can do, is, stay present and observe and make changes accordingly, and lean more into the vibrations, of the emotions that you feel aligned with. And when we kind of sink into some of these emotions that we do not feel aligned with, is, really engaging in those practices that help you learn more about yourself, but then also help you, shift out after you have spent some time with that understanding. And I do want to, also speak to the people that are maybe going through, some changes that are really difficult, is to love yourself. Is we don't know, what the next day, or actually the next moment, is really going to bring. And we all deal with some pretty heavy duty stuff through this earth experience. So if you're dealing, with a loss or some transition, that you're really struggling with, is to just really slow down and love yourself through that. Is that some of these emotions, they are really intense, and gosh, the resilience that we have, like the strength that we have to be able to endure some of these emotions, is so to really make sure that you're saving that space, for yourself. You're reaching out if you need help, um, and not trying to navigate everything on your own. I think that a lot of people could probably resonate, with a difficulty of reaching out and asking for help. I know that that's something, that was really hard for me and continues to be. But then when you do finally say to someone, in a safe space of like, gosh, like I'm going through this really hard chapter here, and I'm unsure what to do and I'm having conflicting emotions and this is really difficult, and in that safe space to get that support, that can be so helpful. And it can also give you a little bit of, a different person's perspective too, and reminding, that it's kind of good sometimes to have a variety of who we talk to, it's because so we have some family or close friends, and maybe somebody that's not involved at all, that's completely out of that, that's not so close, that fishbowl analogy. They're not in the fishbowl with you. They're kind of on the outside looking in so that they have a whole different viewpoint. I'm going to shuffle these cards here and see what comes up for this nice May energy reading here. Loving seeing all of these flowers starting to pop up. There's just so much beauty. All right. So we're going to go with the number 19 for it being May 19th. All right. Love this card. The card is healing. This really talks about really leaning in to your intuitive internal guidance system and really understanding and getting some clarity on what brings you healing. And this is different for everyone. And that's a journey, with the work that I do with people, is that it's not a one size fits all here for healing. This is a very individualized, experience here. Is that I can come in with some ideas, something may have worked for me, some lived experience, that I have, some training that I have. I can come in, but it's not that all of these things per se are going to exactly work. They need to be adapted for the individual. And that journey is beautiful. I'm going to like give an example of meditation is that I have huge buy-in to the benefits of meditation. And I'm aware of different types of meditation that someone can engage in. But one type might work for a group of people and then might not for another group of people. You may need to take what you know about meditation and completely transform it and adapt it into something that works for you. Maybe you're not sitting, in that, you know, kind of seated cross-legged position, silent, maybe your meditation's walking, all sorts of different things. Maybe you're laying down, maybe you're standing up, it's getting really creative with this healing journey. And it is great to get other people's perspectives, opinions, people that have training in different modalities, specialize in different things. But I think one of the most important things to remember is ultimately you're the expert. You can tell when something is working or not working in your healing process. Now I'm going to say, is that this does not mean you try it one time and it didn't feel perfect and then it's like you throw it out the window because it's not working. That's a whole different story. That's another transition. That's another getting used to some change. But this is, more of really you know, adapting these different practices, your belief system, all of it, to reach your favorite version of yourself, to show up for yourself every day, and for many of us, if we are not on this journey, we're experiencing sometimes some suffering, some repetitive chapters, trauma repeating itself through different things, different people, over and over. Um, yeah, it's an important card. I feel like this is great for May. I hope that you're able to take something from this episode, and I'm excited. Like, who are we gonna be? Like, what is this spring gonna bring about? What big changes are we going to make? How are we going to show up when things are hard? And what do we need to do to show up in a way that we're more aligned with? Well, thank you. I appreciate you having this little time with me, stepping on the bus, having a little chat. Take good care of yourselves.